Earlier this year, insurance business was here at the BIBA Conference 2026 to ask the industry's biggest questions to insurers, brokers, MGAs, associations and more. In this edition, we ask, where is the biggest disconnect between client expectations and what the market is delivering?
I think ultimately the end customer doesn't understand the market conditions. A lot of work goes into making sure they've got the right documentation, they've got the right advice in 34 pages on the back of a document. For the client, they just need to know that they can trust somebody to de-risk them. They need to understand that if they pay the premium, they're going to get their claim paid. The disconnect comes when a claim doesn't get paid, when they haven't read some of that information. And regardless of how much a broker will explain how important something is, the customer really just needs to tick the boxes much of the time. Whether it's a legal requirement to get their insurance, whether it's a safety one, whether it is that they just know it's the right thing to do. You only really test the value of that relationship between a customer and the broker when a claim occurs. And when a claim occurs, if cover isn't then there's an expectation that they've paid their premium. It should be covered, regardless of what warranties, conditions and terms have been put against the end customer. I think the other issue is that when it comes to renewal, and don't get me wrong, every client's getting their own way in this soft market, but there's always an assumption that the price shouldn't go up. They've not had a claim. They don't understand how it works. So I think there should be much more focus from the FCA, from the brokers and from the insurers on educating the customer as to how it works, not just educating them on their own risking silo. I think by educating our end customers of how the market works, the importance of what will happen when there's a hard market coming back round in 12 months' time, the price will go up. That won't be a reflection on their risk and how they've managed it. It's a reflection on the market, which gives a lot more stability to that policy than actually their own material fact does. So there's a lot of education needed, a lot of expectation that if they pay the premium, they should get a claim paid. But there's so much more responsibility that a client needs to understand. And I think brokers work hard to do that education piece. I think insurers expect the brokers to have worked hard to have done it. But then it comes back to that expectation between insurer to broker, broker to customer. It's a difficult thing. And when there's so many external forces affecting what a client pays, affecting how they have to work, how they have to manage their own risk, I don't think we're educating them well enough. So whilst we're not doing that, there's always going to be some discontent between sometimes the broker and the customer. Whilst I'm sure many customers are very happy to have the broker they've got, to have their critical friend, it's only really tested when there is a claim.
I think this is a really big one still. So clients expect clarity, speed and certainty, and that still doesn't really happen in the sector. So we still get around clarity is too complex. We arrange so many different insurances across different products, which creates that complexity. Then you've got speed. Speed isn't happening on the side of getting quotes for them still or claims. And the certainty as well. Look at the market. The soft versus hard market. They don't know how pricing is going to change. They don't know how claims are going to be approached. And I think that's where the broker comes in. We really add that disconnect between the two and support the clients to make sure that we do try and bring that clarity, speed and certainty more to the process than is there at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the way that commercial insurance policies are worded is they're still designed for lawyers and insurance brokers to read. Probably the biggest challenge. We've had everything in the consumer market come out with making wordings easier to read. And I'll take a really easy example. Clients don't understand that for a theft claim in commercial insurance, there has to be something called forcible violent entry or exit. There are all these still quite niche ways that the insurance market operates, but don't really reflect how the real world works anymore. And I think trying to make the policies easier for clients to understand so they're not surprised when they have a claim is probably the best way of solving this problem.
So I would say client expectations are moving at pace, and it's really, really important that everyone kind of delivers to that expectation. Even as customers, we also want things faster, more seamless. And as a consequence, I think it's quite a challenge to continue to meet those demands, but it's really, really important as insurers we do that.
I would say it's about timelines and information gathering. When policyholders have had major losses, the thing that they care most about is when they are going to get an indemnity for their claim. They want to know how long that process is going to take. They also want to know what it is they have to do. And too often, policyholders, I think, expect at the outset that the insurer will tell them everything that they need to do straight away. But what tends to happen is that you find evolving and piecemeal and sometimes shifting requests for information, which makes the process, take longer than policyholders think it will. And I think a misalignment of expectations as to what they have to do.
I think that I can probably use the pet insurance environment and the equine insurance environment to probably talk to that a little more in depth. I think that customer outcomes, when you look at FOS and you look at complaint upheld rates, I think you then start to really see disconnect between product and consumer. And I think in the pet insurance environment, that couldn't be closer to reality. So we're really seeing the disconnect from understanding policy, understanding what people are buying, to the finished and final product. So when it comes to claim, when somebody has purchased something that they really don't understand, there's a massive disconnect, I think, between what the insurers are offering to what the consumers are purchasing. So what we're doing at the Pet and Equine Insurance Association is we're bringing all those organisations together. So it's really important to have the affinities, the affinity associations, so the vets, the suppliers, the insurers, the consumers, all having a voice to build products. And I think there's nothing worse than a product being built on one side of the story. You have to bring everybody to the table, and that's all about collaboration. And that's just really important for all of our industry. And you can see that products that have been built with collaboration are the best products.